Welcome back. Today we're going to summarize analysis of the trip that we took in August of 2020 to Colorado, so stay tuned. All right, so in August of 2020, Chance and I went camping up in Lake County, Colorado, near Independence Pass between Aspen and Twin Lakes. And I take meticulous notes on these really long road trips. And I've gone through all of that data during the spring and have worked on it, trying to make it into one video. And I decided what I would do is I would create a summary of the findings on that for those of you that don't want to dig into all the details. And then depending on what you guys say in the comments, I may release it as one great big video, or I may release it as a series of videos going into the details. So what I want to cover is the basic performance of doing a road trip with the Tesla real life. I've been driving it for 2 years. It's of course been improving with software updates. The management of how far can you go on a charge. If it says you're going to arrive with 5% charge, can you trust that? Up until recently, I haven't tried getting that close, and on this trip I did try to cut it close in some cases, sometimes with good results, sometimes with not so good results. Supercharging times as well has been something that I've been really struggling to figure out. I find that I expect to stop for 60 minutes, but I can leave earlier, or vice versa. So we'll dig into the highlights of the data, and then you in the comments can tell me whether you want to know more. And the folks that don't care about all those underlying details, they can skip all that crap, and the people that do, they can jump into those details in another video. What I am going to do is compare, what systems are on the car. How can you tell? Compare it to an ICE vehicle, and just ultimately, how does it all pan out? When if it says that you've got X% of charge left, what does that really mean? If it tells you you have 200 miles left, does that really mean 200 miles? And to a certain extent, even after owning this car for almost 2 years, I'd never really pushed it close. Summarizing the trip on the way up there, it was 943 total miles. Stoppage time, which I was really interested to add this up. Our stoppage time was 311 minutes, which is 5 hours and 18 minutes over the course of 2 days driving, of course. Honestly, this is about what I would have stopped in an ICE vehicle. Certainly when I used to do road trips in the Toyota Sienna minivan with my family when my kids were little, it was 45 minutes to an hour every single time we stopped. And, we usually have to stop. People would get wiggly, myself included, after 300 miles in 3 hours or two, whatever. So you can see the breakdown. It was 51 minutes at Cisco, 63 minutes at Childress, 60 minutes at Amarillo, 70 at Trinidad, and 67 at Poncha Springs. Roughly an hour every time we stopped, and that was just perfect. I mean, some of those we could have made those trips a little bit shorter, particularly the Trinidad stop and the Amarillo stop. We could have done, or the Childress stop, we could have done a little bit shorter. But in general, roughly an hour stop. It felt good to stop for that long, and the car needed to charge, and we needed to recharge as well. So on the return trip, had to go back down to Poncha Springs again because we'd driven around. We'd actually, while we were there, gone down to Poncha to recharge. We drove over to Aspen, over the mountain range, over Independence Pass, and did a number of things. Took it up hiking, went up back roads and stuff like that with the all-wheel drive. So, we drove it around, used some charge, went down to Poncha Springs, and we bought some supplies and charged while we were there. So Chance and I left at 12:03 Mountain Time with 145 miles range. We just needed to get to Poncha Springs, so easy. It was about 60 degrees Fahrenheit at altitude. We arrived in Poncha at 103. This is a great case of where it was estimating
that we would arrive at 104. We arrived at 103. You know, we had 108 miles range. It estimated when we left that we would arrive with 33% charge, and we arrived with 33% charge. So this is a great example of where it can be just super accurate if you drive regular. If you drive the speed limit, maybe a little bit faster, don't do crazy acceleration, don't have unexpected, go up unexpected hills. It knows where the hills are and the elevation changes, so it seems to take that into account. So it's just, if you were to drive up a driveway that maybe isn't on the, or a back road that isn't on the route, it wouldn't calculate that, and it would use more to go uphill. That's an example of unexpected. The summary of the return trip, because of Palo Duro, including the 58 miles that related to that, and going back to the Supercharger, we did 1,005 miles. Our stoppage time included 20 minutes in Poncha Springs, 40 minutes in Trinidad, 66 minutes that I'm counting in Amarillo, the second Supercharging, 92 minutes in Sweetwater. So that's a total of 284 minutes. That's 4 hours and 44 minutes. So what's really key about this is that I had much longer stops at the Supercharger, but overall I spent less time stopped, if that makes sense. So this is clear data that it's faster to be patient and charge your car up more fully than to do multiple stops. I really wondered about that. This is clear evidence that it's much better to, if you can get it full and make the stretch and maybe drive a little bit slower, you're going to actually end up spending less time stopped with slow driving and fuller batteries. So a round trip summary on this whole trip up and back, including driving around up there, we drove 2,216 miles. Our total stoppage time for Supercharging was 9 hours 37 minutes, both there and back. In the end, we never really got close to running out of charge, despite the drama. If things looked like it was going to get close, I slowed down, and that allowed me to end up with more than enough charge on the way back. And the best part, of course, goes without saying, that zero gasoline was used on this entire trip, and it's worth saying, even though again it's obvious, we were in some pretty remote places. I mean, getting into rural Colorado, going up to the tops of mountains, going up mountain trails, the roads, the unpaved roads that go to trailheads, whatever. All of this in an electric vehicle. All of this, regardless of range anxiety, I'm able to do whatever I want to do. The Supercharging network is good enough that maybe you have to do a little bit more planning, because there isn't a gas station in every single little town. It's not like gas stations in every single little town. There's not a Supercharger in every single little town. So you have to do some planning. But as the network gets built out, which it's changed dramatically just in the last 2 years, it's easily going to be like the network of gas stations that we have over the coming decades, especially as more than 10% of cars become electric. Right now we're still in the single digits.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the content. Let me know if you have any comments about your Tesla. I'm really interested to know about other Tesla owners, other models, whether they're performing similarly, or folks that have driven in other parts of the country, whether your performance is different, whether it's places where it's hotter, colder, more mountainous, less mountainous, all that stuff. Of course, don't forget to click like and click subscribe. And with that, so long for now.